Welcome to JumpStart IT Academy. I am going to be breaking down this story that everyone's talking about CrowdStrike. I want to give you my take on it. And let's go ahead and I'm going to share my screen here. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, so I'll put the link in the description. This is LA Times breaking this down. I'm just going to go over this and let's kind of see what's really going on. you know you see a lot of news articles out there. I had my brother contacted me and asked me, said, hey, you're an IT guy, what's going on here? So I want to I haven't researched this deeply. I mean, if I wanted to really go really deep with this, I could, but just from getting a little bit of information with my 30 years of experience, I can pretty much glean and figure out what's happening here. They're touting this as one of the worst um IT failures in the history. And I would have to say that that is true. And I say that because in the research that I have done, they're claiming that this wasn't a cyber attack. So if not a cyber attack, just consider this the equivalent is someone stubbing their toe and having to amputate. That's what's going on here. So, something really, really small, a Windows installation or a Windows update has caused and crippled the whole global economy in a lot of pockets of the economy. Because I know there's certain things that are working and certain things that are not working. But in tech, just kind of like, I'm just going to give you some real info here. In tech, what we look for is we look for the common thread. And what's interesting about this problem is that in tech, we're taught to, in our disaster recovery preparedness trainings, and just even in design, when you design certain systems or infrastructure, we're taught to avoid single points of failure. The reason we don't want to avoid single points of failure is because we don't want something so minuscule or small having such a pervasive negative impact on the whole. Okay, so this article is from the LA Times. What is CrowdStrike? How did it cripple so many computers? Okay, talk about irony. The software that paralyzed Windows computers around the world late Thursday night and early Friday morning was planted by a company that protects Windows computers against malware. I am personally going to say, and this is just my opinion, that this strikes me, and not no pun intended, like this literally strikes me as um either utter ignorance or utter negligence. And I say that because before we deploy before we deploy a software, or we replace something in a network or in a tech environment, in a tech space, meaning infrastructure, right? Whether it's software or hardware, before we replace it, especially something that could have a impact on the even on a local level. This is on a global level. We test it. We have a lab where we test this. And I've already read this article somewhat. I like gleaned over it real quick. And it's sort of like they're saying that, well, we didn't know it was a problem until we, deployed it on our systems. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting, because if you deployed it on your system and then you found out there was issues, it sounds like you deployed it on your system while everybody else was deploying it on theirs, which tells me that there wasn't a test bed. There wasn't a sandbox. There wasn't a place where this was labbed out. There wasn't a place where they tested this in a non-production environment before they deployed it into the production environment. It sounds like they took a very casual approach because they're like, it's just a Windows update, not a big deal, until it becomes a big deal. And it's a big deal, So, and I wouldn't be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if a lower level technician is the one who actually deployed this. I wouldn't be surprised because it's probably a small update. So they thought, not a big deal. It's not a big deal. So let's go ahead and get that going. They probably thought this was non-threatening and neutral. So they deployed it out on a Friday. And that's just not something that we do. Even though we're tech professionals, the infrastructure doesn't sleep. We have to work on shifts because problems can arise at any time. But nonetheless, we still we still want to go into the weekend without any gotchas or any issues or any unforeseen oopsies. Okay. So for someone to deploy this on a Friday, usually we do our maintenance windows Monday through, I would say Monday through Thursday, which would be Wednesday night going into Thursday. I'm just, we do that because going into the weekend, everybody wants to value their weekends. The only time most, outside of 24/7 operations, which haven't 24/7 operations, which that's how they operate, most businesses, they usually leave those weekends available because you can work, without having a maintenance window on a Friday. It's you just move it to Monday. Usually it's not that type of urgency, but if there is, they do have the option in some cases to work on a Friday. So just them deploying on a Friday, it's suspect. It really is suspect. It makes me think that they thought this was not a big deal, and it does look like they did not test this. Uh, I believe they will sterilize the information that they present to the public. When I say sterilize, they're not going to put a lot of words in there that would give great indication to people like me to be able to, pull that thread and see how the outfit unravels. But nonetheless, it happened. The mud is on their face, and a lot of mud got on a lot of people's faces with this going down. But let's go back to the article. I'm just gonna my goal is to give you a perspective so that you can see the way I see it. Okay. So the software that paralyzed Windows computers around the world late Thursday night, early Friday morning, excuse me, was planted by a company that protects Windows computers against malware. That company is CrowdStrike, a publicly traded cybersecurity firm. From my understanding, they're worth about $80 billion. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if the impact of this has a financial value of 500 billion, even to a trillion. I wouldn't be surprised. There were so many industries that was impacted by this. So to me, it is as if a little tiny ant is leading a lion, meaning a $80 billion company could have a pervasive effect on the global economy. Uh, this is utterly amazing, and it is historical. So a publicly traded cybersecurity firm based in Austin. I mean, can you believe this? It's a cybersecurity firm. So you would think that they would have procedures and processes to ensure the impact on a company's infrastructure would be vetted. But nonetheless, you it is what it is. I mean, what you're seeing is the human side of tech, meaning human error side of tech. That's what you're seeing because one thing that they're putting out there is that hey, this is not a cybersecurity attack. It personally, just from the information that they're giving us without speculating, it just basically looks like it's self-inflicted. That's what it looks like. It looks like it was self-inflicted. Whether they intended to do it or not, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So people are going through hell right now, and cyber or CrowdStrike has a lot of good intentions. I'm sure they didn't intend it, but they're sterilized, vanilla plain language that they're communicating to the public, I would say, is to protect themselves. What value this company is going to have going forward, I don't know. Because if you're making money off of ensuring cybersecurity attacks, and then you happen to be the friendly fire that this is pretty much a cybersecurity attack. I mean, by friendly fire, that it's a I didn't mean to. kind of situation, but the uh-oh is a big consequence. Okay, continue. It acknowledged the problem around 11 p.m. Thursday and started working on a solution, offering a workaround in the wee hours Friday and a fix a few hours later. The vast sea of blue screens of death triggered by CrowdStrike's error is a testament to the market-leading status of the company's software, which detects and defends against malicious code planted by hackers. Okay, let's read this again. The vast sea of blue screens of death triggered by CrowdStrike's error is a testament to the market-leading status of the company's software which detects and defends against malicious code planted by hackers. In other words, okay, so there was something going on with this single Windows update, and your software is supposed to detect and defend the Windows machines, but yet you yourself sent out an update that really, hammered the Windows machines. The point that I'm getting is that they're going to lose public trust. That's what they're losing. They're losing public trust, essentially. Continuing, its approach is known as endpoint security. Endpoint security means that they manage devices that are on the end point of a network, meaning computers, smart devices, iPads, iPhones, things of that nature. Because it installs its defenses on devices that connect to the internet, such as computers and smartphones. According to the website sixthsense.com, CrowdStrike has more than 3,500 customers, which represent about 1 of every 4 companies buying endpoint security. Although most of its customers are based in the United States, it has hundreds in India, Europe, Australia, Sixth Sense reports. Here's a quick explanation for how things went wrong so quickly. So many Windows users around the world, including airlines, hospitals, banks, government agencies. The Falcon sensor update. One of the selling points of CrowdStrike's service is that it can improve its defenses rapidly as new threats are discovered. As part of that service, it continuously and automatically updates the Falcon sensor software on its customer's machine. That is something that I knew off the rip. I knew that what they were doing is sending out auto updates. And basically, the auto updates are set up because their software is no different than antivirus. It's something that you need. You're going to make sure that it's automatically updated so that you can be protected. Excuse me. So that you can be protected from threats. So you wouldn't assume that the threat that protects you from threats would become a threat. Who would assume that? That's what happened with CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike is the friendly neighbor that tore up the neighborhood, basically. You picture CrowdStrike being the neighborhood watch that, I don't know, accidentally burglarized the whole neighborhood or harmed the whole neighborhood. Okay, picture like that. It's incredible. Automatic updates are, under normal circumstances, a good cybersecurity practice because they prevent clients from having machines with outdated defense on their networks. But the latest incident reveals the flip side of the coin. According to CrowdStrike, the problem was triggered by a single content update. Anytime you say single content update, it sounds small, minuscule, not a big deal. Not even a big deal. That's why I say it's the ant that was leading the lion, or the ant leading the elephant. The whole global economy is impacted by a single content update by a small little tiny company that's only worth $80 billion. I'm saying that in the context of, let's say, a Microsoft, which I believe is nearly valued at $1 trillion. So, and also these other organizations and industries and companies within industries that if you put them all together, how in the world could they allow this little tiny company to cause them so many problems when they trusted this company? Which is why, will they trust them going forward? And what are the alternatives after this? Because the classic uh-oh is not going to suffice in this situation. It's just not going to make it. I would imagine that CFOs or excuse me, CTOs and CEOs are essentially saying, how do we get rid of these people? Because the cost benefit analysis, the what they cost them, not direct costs, but indirect costs from the consequences of this situation outweighs the benefits. The benefits at first were up here, and here was the cost, but now it's done switch. The cost is way too high and the benefits are way too low. So the problem was triggered by a single content update for its customers with Windows PCs. The buggy code wasn't detected until after it had downloaded and installed on many of CrowdStrike's client machines. Once loaded, the bad update interfered with core functions of the PC, causing Microsoft's infamous blue screen to pop up and convey a message along with lines of, your PC ran into a problem and needs to restart. As long as the update remained in place, restarting the machine led to some errant result. So it sounded like that they restarted the machine, but it still had some lingering effects. Excuse me. The fix offered by CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike stopped sending out the faulty update early Friday morning, so machines that had not loaded it were spared the turmoil. For machines caught in the cycle of blue screen hell, the company initially offered step-by-step instructions for how to reboot Windows in a mode that would allow them to find and delete the buggy update. The drawback, as many commenters online noted, is that this machine-by-machine approach isn't much help for organizations with hundreds or thousands of bricked PCs. In other words, if you have an organization, let's say you've got a team of 200 tech professionals who are managing, let's say 20 sites in all over the United States, and you have a collective of 5,000 PCs. That means out of these 100 tech people, probably 50 of them manage PCs to some extent or have the experience on how to do it. So that means that they're going to have to send these 50 tech professionals to 20 sites all across the United States to actually put their hands on the machines in a world where we have remote workers and we have work being done in the cloud, meaning that these workers now have to physically be on the machine to actually troubleshoot this issue. So you're going to have, a consequence of this is that they're going to most likely they're going to outsource companies to be able to go in and solve this problem, because those 200 IT workers and the 50 that would actually do this work, it would disrupt that company's regular operations. So this is a bad look for CrowdStrike. They're messing up the money and they're messing up the honey, which is their relationship with all these companies. That sweet relationship is now ended. It is soured. They have cost more than they're worth. That's what's happening with CrowdStrike, in my opinion. And we'll see going forward what really happens to CrowdStrike. Can they overcome this? And go ahead and put your comments in there and let me know what you think. I remember talking about what happened with MGM Grand last year or a year and a half ago, and it was bad, but it wasn't as bad as this. They lost $15 million a day, I believe, for over 35 days. Now, if that's just one company losing $15 million a day for 35 days, they say there's probably going to take days to a week to solve this, and it's pervasive across all these different industries. Excuse me. I think it's going to be way more than 15 million, excuse me, $15 million a day. For machines caught in the cycle of blue screen hell. Okay, I read that. Okay, for the drawback, as commentators online noted. Okay, we read that part. Let's continue. According to the tech website 404, Microsoft also suggested rebooting a crashed machine multiple times. As many as 15 could solve the problem. Could solve the problem. Within a few hours, CrowdStrike was, excuse me, CrowdStrike was distributing a piece of software that removed the buggy code. This worked only for customers whose machines were able to connect to the internet and download the fix, though. Everyone else was left with PC by PC workaround. That is so archaic. I mean, back in the day, that's what we had to do. I did an update for an organization, and I was a network engineer. I did all the back end, the routers, the switches, the firewalls. Wi-Fi, but I also had to do the front. I managed a team that did the front end, which was all the windows, and we had to go to every site. We had to go to every site, and we had to touch every machine. Okay. And that's a lot of work. And that was a scheduled project with a scope of work, with a schedule and a timeline and project management and all that kind of stuff. Now you can imagine this right here. There's no project management because this is an operational impact issue. So this wasn't anything that was scheduled in advance that people were aware of. This is CrowdStrike being an intervening cause which is negatively impacting operations. So this isn't an implementation issue it's not a project that was handed off to operations. This was an external threat, CrowdStrike, inadvertently causing problems with all these different companies. Scammers jump in. CrowdStrike CEO George Kurtz issued an apology late Friday morning, promising that the company would provide full transparency on how this occurred and steps were taken to prevent anything like this from happening again. Now, this is good talk. This is a good thing to say right now because the mud is on your face, and you gotta be able to tell people that we're going to help you get the mud off your face too. And the full transparency, we'll see if they do provide full transparency. We're hoping that we can trust that they will, because they are a cybersecurity company, and that type of company, the crux of it is trust. All right. So he also warned that bad actors online would try to take advantage of the incident, urging customers to be on the lookout and ensure that you're engaging with official CrowdStrike representatives. So in other words, this is now an open honeypot for any scammers to be able to put their masks on and pretend to be something that they're not, promising things that they cannot fulfill, hoping that an unwitting person or company would not be able to suspect them as being deceptive, and then causing even further damage than CrowdStrike has inadvertently caused. Because it doesn't look like they did this nefariously. It doesn't look like they had a bad spirit in this incident. It appears to be an accident at this point. Sure enough, the company announced 2 hours later that it had found numerous instances of scammers trying to lure victims by posing as CrowdStrike technical support in emails or phone calls. In other words, this sounds like a field day for phishing scammers and people who are just scamming. The scammers had their regular hat on, what they were going to do today, and CrowdStrike, just gave them an even better option on how to use their time in harming people even further. Okay, so others were posing as independent researchers, claiming to have evidence the technical issue is linked to a cyber attack and offering remediation insights. And yet, more were making bogus offers to sell software to fix the problem, the company said. CrowdStrike identified at least 30 malicious websites that were involved in these cons. Good job, CrowdStrike. Researchers at the internet company, now this makes it very good that they're accustomed to dealing with cyber attacks, and scammers are usually behind these cyber attacks, right? Because they're able to detect who would try to jump on this situation and cause even more problems for people and companies. Researchers at the internet security company Norton also warned about the emergence of fake domains and impersonation scams tied to the incident. Scammers can leverage social ads, emails, text messages to drive people to the bogus sites, Norton warned. These sites look legitimate and aim to extort personal or financial information, preying on the fear and the doubt of people may have related to the incident. More so, many times fake domains have high search rankings, which can make them appear more credible. In impersonation scam, con artists may send messages mimicking CrowdStrike's branding to potential victims, claiming that they have been affected by the incident. The messages direct people to fraudulent customer support line or webpage with a goal of stealing money or sensitive information, Norton says. So be aware of this. and don't allow yourself or an organization that you work for to be a victim by you being vigilant. Because in terms of cybersecurity, we as tech professionals, we believe that everyone has the power to stop cybersecurity events from happening or from being exacerbated. Meaning that take responsibility if something doesn't seem right. Don't open up the email. Notify your IT professional that may have a better understanding, or a coworker that may demonstrate a more sound mind in dealing with those types of issues. In other words, don't allow this vulnerability to expose your company, your organization, or even yourself, or people that you care for. Okay, continue. This should serve as a cautionary tale, reminding people worldwide to remain extra vigilant as scammers use every single method to exploit them. Louis Carones of Norton Security Evangelist said in a statement. The lessons from the CrowdStrike debacle. Some Macintosh and Linux users, apologize. Some Macintosh and Linux users were immune to the CrowdStrike-induced upheaval, devoted a portion of their morning Friday to spiking the football on Windows. In other words, the Mac and the Linux guys and gals were basically making fun at the the Windows guys. I'm personally a Windows guy, MCSE, Microsoft Certified System Engineer. That's how I got started. Okay. And I'll take it. I'll take it. You know, Macintosh and Linux users, I get it. There's a lot of things that you guys told us about, all these lists of vulnerabilities in Windows, and we kept going. And you know, we're seeing what is happening with our choice with siding with Windows. We're not looking good right now because of the vulnerabilities in Windows and the ease ability to exploit those vulnerabilities. Okay, so they devoted a portion of their morning to spike the football on Windows, even though the problem wasn't caused by Microsoft. It wasn't caused by Microsoft, but nonetheless, they're just taking pot shots at how flimsy and weak Microsoft vulnerabilities can be easily exploited. Other observers argued that the incident demonstrated the risk of having one potential point of failure. Exactly. I talked about that in the beginning. We are skilled in avoiding single points of failures. How you can have a single point of failure that affects millions of computers is in and of itself is monumental. Continuing, a problem that has been demonstrated repeatedly during the broadband era. Transportation security, Pete Buttigieg, I don't pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Please forgive me on that. Made a similar point at a press conference Friday in East Los Angeles. A lot of people around the country and around the world are shocked to discover that a single issue with a single piece of software can have that many knock-on implications. So that'll be a question that really goes to the design or the systems of our systems for long term, Buttigieg said. As a recovering computer science major, Representative Ted Lieu, a Democrat from Torrance, said on X, I'm not surprised a faulty update by CrowdStrike took down Microsoft Windows. Always risks in giving another software program full or near full access to an operating system. Yeah, that is true. Because my understanding, they were making changes to the core of Windows operating system. That's a lot of trust. That is a lot of trust. The core is basically sort of like, it's sort of like saying whenever you need brain surgery, you know, I'll, I'll operate on your brain. That's a lot of trust to allow somebody to operate on another person's brain. But that's just giving you an understanding what the kernel, or what I believe is the kernel, is what they're talking about, the core. The kernel, that's what it is. It's that sensitive. I know Apple, Mac, they don't let nobody touch their kernel. Nobody's touching their kernel. That's why you can see them being able to sit on the sidelines and take pot shots, because they're like, hey, we have a closed system. We told you so. That's just straight up. Microsoft doesn't have a closed system. They allow people to make changes to it, and you can see the results of that in this incident today. Steve Garrison, one of the founders of Stellar Cyber in San Jose, said it's more important to figure out how to make improvements than to play the blame game. This incident, he said, underscores the need for companies to spend plenty of time checking the quality of their products in a controlled environment before releasing them to customers. In other words, you need to have a lab, you need to have a non-prod sandbox where you're testing this stuff out. That's why I believe that they thought it was not a big deal. That's why I believe a junior engineer put the code together. I'm not blaming this on a junior engineer, but I'm saying just most likely it was such a non-threatening, small, mundane task that they probably gave it to a junior engineer. He configured the code for it, and without even testing it, they were just like, "Hey, did you finish it? All right, put it out. Let's go watch the basketball game or whatever sports event, and let's just chill and relax, because our work is done for the evening." And you can obviously see their work wasn't done, because I believe that they updated their systems while they were updating everybody else's. And then when their systems started exploding, that's when they started to know, I think we got a problem on our hands. And it's a little bit too late now, because everybody else has a problem on their hands too. So that means we all have your problem on our hands now. That's what's happening right now. That's what happened. Okay, so this incident, he said, underscores the need for companies to spend plenty of time. Yep, we already know that. Another lesson, he said, is the need for companies, their competitors, and their customers to work together as a community to spot problems. What do we need to do to check the checkers of our supply chain? Exactly. Microsoft trusted CrowdStrike. Did it pay off? No, it didn't pay off. Not favorably for Microsoft. Dan O'Dowd, a developer of security software for the military, said the fiasco demonstrates that we need better software in critical systems. The immense body of software developed using Silicon Valley's move fast and break things culture means that software our lives depend on is riddled with defects and vulnerabilities. Excuse me. He's just basically saying that there's a culture that is also to blame, meaning a mindset and a perspective of, this. It's kind of like this kind of build the code, deploy it without testing it is a very startup mentality. You can do that in a startup environment because you're running lean, you're bootstrapping. You have to be able to build it and ship it. You have to be able to build and go. But that mentality, that startup mentality in a production environment dealing with companies that are worth millions and billions of dollars, probably not a good idea. And especially if you're a billion-dollar company thinking like that. So O'Dowd said in a statement, defects in this software can result in a mass failure event, even more serious than the one that we have seen today. He added, we must convince the CEOs, the board of directors of the companies that build these systems our lives depend on to rewrite their software so that it never fails and can't be hacked. These companies will not take cybersecurity seriously until the public demands it. Excuse me. He's basically saying that if you think that this is the whole, it's not. This is the tip of the iceberg. That's what he's saying. He's saying that due to the fact that market production requires speed, it's a neglect of security. That's what's happening here. And we must demand it now before a major disaster strikes. And this article is by a man named John Healy, and he wrote this article for the Times, and I have to commend him. This is a really good article. It gives a really good, healthy overview of what potentially could have happened in this situation. And I hope that, me giving you some insight with my 30 years of experience in tech can kind of give you the ability to see it, like a kaleidoscope, seeing all the different colors and potentials of what really could have happened in this situation. And I hope it empowers you, and it would even embolden you to start investigating this for yourself. And if you want to transition into tech, I hope this doesn't scare you. It just should tell you that there's opportunity, that even the smartest guys in the room aren't really the smartest guys in the room. And maybe if you were in that room, you would have potentially made the notion, excuse me, that they should test this before deploying it. And you may have been the one to be able to stop an incident like this from causing such a global catastrophe. And it sounds far-fetched probably in your mind, but the reality is that in tech, we all matter. If you see something, say something. Something doesn't look right, say it. Because look at the damage that it's causing. It caused a whole lot of damage. So if you do transition to tech, then be aware that if you see something that doesn't look right, say something. At least you put your thoughts out there. And if something happens, it could be noted that you did voice your opinion as far as what you thought about the situation. So I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope it was helpful and beneficial to you. And if you like what you heard, salute, go ahead and share the word, like the video. And yeah, so I'm also sharing this on YouTube. So go ahead and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Peace. Log off here.